here on YouTube. We're excited to have everyone. As you can see, Jordan's nice and comfy. He's got his hat on backwards, and he is ready to chill, LA style.
Yeah, I'm up the coast. I'm up in San Luis Obispo, and it is just very laid back here. So you gotta, when in Rome, you gotta do as the Romans do.
Yeah,
When in
I have
slow,
no
do
idea
as
what you just said. That might as well have been Chinese. I'm up the coast in Santa something. I don't know what that means. I don't speak
all you need to
Californian.
know. Yeah, all you need to know is it's nicer here than it is there. That's really all.
Well,
Well,
this
how
may
you
be the
doing,
only
Dave?
day of the year that may not be true. It's
Oh,
73, sunny, not a cloud in the sky, and a nice breeze.
yeah,
I'll take that 365 days a year. But
all
I know
day,
some of you guys like it hotter.
all day, every day. Man,
Hey, Man
Rube,
Rib,
hey,
thanks for joining us today.
all right.
Appreciate it. Looks like we got some people jumping in here. Guys, jump in. And while we're getting settled here tonight, feel free to start posting questions as often and frequently as you want, and we'll get them into them in a minute here. Beast Coast is here. Oh boy. Second comment. Wash House Nashville. Steve
Oh,
Andrews. Thanks for
no.
joining us, buddy. Appreciate it.
I do not want to see all this Beast Coast stuff happening here. Come
Yeah.
on.
We'll
Where's
see if
the
some of you left coasters join us tonight.
where's the best coast representing over here?
I didn't tell you, but I've been working for 2 weeks to get a bunch of people to gang up on you from the East Coast.
Sneaky, sneaky.
Yeah.
That'll make
So how have
for a
you
good
been,
one.
man? What's been going on for you?
Yeah, I've been good. I am running like wild lately. It's been kind of all over the map, kind of literally and just figuratively too. And yeah, I'm good. I'm up in San Luis Obispo, which is about halfway ish between LA and San Francisco
Okay.
on the coast. Super pretty here.
You on vacation there, or are you doing consulting stuff, or?
A little bit of both. So my brother lives up here, and my best friend lives up here, and there's
Yeah.
some laundromats that we're looking at for diligence capital investments up here too. So
Gotcha. Nice.
just having a good time. Yeah.
Well, Bart Duran jumped in. He says
Bart.
West Coast. Yeah, Bart's
Yes.
representing.
Bart, go ahead and just call it what it is, and you can just call it the best coast. That's just shoot straight and
I need everybody, even Bart, to help me out. I'm trying to coin a new phrase whenever I talk to Jordan and we're scheduling things. I always tell him that it's 7 p.m. real time.
Yeah.
There's no West Coast, no Beast Coast, no East Coast, no this coast. It's just real time. And then there's all you people that are on the wrong time.
Yeah. Man said Midwest is the best.
Midwest is the best. I think that's a new one. Good job.
Here's the thing about that is that you had to use our West in order to rhyme with the best. So.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. I see it.
Yeah.
All right.
How you been before we jump into these things? And hey, guys, get those questions in. We'll be taking your questions. I see one or two in already. I'm looking forward to talking about some promotions here in a minute, but get those questions in. We are here to help you guys improve your businesses, scale your businesses, buy your first business, wherever you're at on that journey. We're doing this live Q&A because we like hanging out with each other. We like hanging out with you, but we also want to help everybody move forward, right? And wherever they're at on their journey, we want to help them move forward. So get those questions in. We are excited to chat about that. And as always, we love it when you guys interact with the questions in the chat also and help each other out. So with that said, Dave, how have you been, man? What's going on with you?
Man, I'm busy. As everybody knows, I'm working on getting my book launched. I'm in the editing phase right now, which is super exciting, but it's kind of a grind. It's kind of like one of those things. This isn't real fun. I mean, it's fun in a sense of you get to see your book kind of come to life, and that's kind of cool for sure. But it's a lot of work, as people can imagine. So starting to see the finish line. I'm super excited. A few people that I'm working with that are helping me kind of pull it across the finish line are just absolute rock stars in the publishing world, the editing world, and just having so much fun working with them. And like I said, just watching it come to life to a way I honestly didn't know that it was even capable of. So it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. The podcast is doing good. You know, we're getting along. We broke the double-digit mark. So I think I have to be to like 100 to make me legit. So, or maybe 50. I don't know how that works, but I'll take 10 because it seems like I saw somewhere that most, I don't know, I forget what the
8.
statistic was. I'm going to make up
8.
a statistic.
It's
80.
8.
8. Okay, you tell me. You sounds like you have the statistic.
Yeah. Most podcasts don't make it past 8 episodes. So you make it past 8, you are in the top 25% podcasts that are started.
Top 25%. Thank you
I'm
very
talking about.
much.
Well,
Top 25.
you're way in terms of quality. I mean, you're easy in the 1%.
1%. Oh my
Easy.
gosh. I'm in
Yeah.
the 1%. That's elite. That's like
That's
Jordan
right.
Berry quality there. Guys. Yeah, don't forget while we're just chatting here, don't forget to post your questions in the comments section. Have you I'm putting you on the spot here. Have you had any good questions in your forum lately in the
Yeah, I was
the
just
Laundromat?
looking that up actually.
Yeah, so guys, listen, while we're getting started here and waiting people to log in, don't forget to join my Facebook group, Laundromat Millionaire. It's totally free. There's no charge. It's a private group, so you have to request to join. But as long as you're looking to help people and looking to learn from fellow laundromat owners, we're all about that. And so join that group. Obviously, Jordan over at Laundromat Resource is it /forum? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think it's /
/. I don't even know what the difference in a forward.
I don't know. It's just slash. I don't even know.
I don't even know. But anyway, so don't forget to get on there and check that out as well. It's some pretty amazing conversations going on. I know Jordan took his forum to another level and kind of broke them out into categories, which is even cooler. So anyway, there's a lot of great groups out there. Join whatever ones you think is a good fit for you. But we'd love to have you in our 2 forums. Both of them are totally free. Once again, just trying to network, connect with people. What is it you always say you think is pretty cool about your forum? Something unique happening?
Yeah, man. This was not planned or designed or anything, but people started. So I have an introductions forum where people can go and just introduce themselves, let people know who you are, where in the world you are, and where on your laundromat journey you are, whether you're buying your first, you own one, you own multiple, whatever. And what started happening, which was super cool, is that people would start saying, hey, I'm in South Florida. And then more people from South Florida would comment and say, hey, I'm in South Florida. And then people would just start connecting more in person or on the phone and sharing, how to connect with each other. So to me, that is the most exciting thing happening on the forums over there right now. I mean, there's a lot of great questions, and I have a couple good ones that I actually would love to tackle if we get to them, because I think they're really good questions that I get asked a lot, and I'd love to hear your take on some of them. But by far, all the connections that are happening over there, my favorite.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think that's, we've always said with these live Q&As that we've been doing since December now, we've always said that we think one of the coolest things about it is, the people connecting in the comments section, and, they ask a question and we get to it if we can. Some weeks or some months we can get to all of them or most of them, and then some of them we can't get to half of them. Just depends on the participation. But it's always cool, I know, for both of us to see people helping each other in the comments section without us even being involved. Like, I know that's what you and I are both all about with our platforms and our influence and everything, is just helping connect people together, to share information and kind of that abundance mindset of all of us being stronger together. So yeah, it's lots of good stuff happening, whether it's this Q&A. Don't forget, guys, we'll be doing this again next month over on the Laundromat Resource YouTube channel. We don't have that date yet, but we'll get that out to you. If you're not following Jordan's YouTube channel, make sure that you get over there and do that. Laundromat Resource over on YouTube. Yeah, we got more questions coming in. But yeah, let's jump right in, man. You want to hit one off your forum, or you want to jump a few of these off the comment section?
Yeah, let's do the comment ones first. I'd like to make sure we get to the people who are here. And I like the one that just came in from Jamon, who said, not an owner yet, new to this. When I do boots on the ground, visiting local mats in the area, what am I looking for? What should I be doing? Is there anything specific that Jamon should be doing when they're checking out? They're actually in the physical location checking things out. What should they be looking for?
Well, I'm going to back off the physical location for a minute and talk about more of what I call the sub-market. This is like a 1-3-5 mile radius surrounding any particular store. I recommend, and I'm sure you do too, but I recommend people, as a starting off grounds, just to look at the area surrounding their home. Because as you know, I happen to find my first laundromat just a couple miles from my house, and that's not always possible, and I get that. But in a perfect world, it's an ideal scenario to be a few miles from your home. Makes everything easier. So what I really tell people is when you're looking at locations, you're looking for the laws of supply and demand not being served properly. So they're being tipped in your favor as a laundromat owner, whether that's close to home or not. You're looking for those locations, and the good slash bad, part of our industry is that there's plenty of opportunity out there. I was estimate it's roughly 75% of the industry isn't serving their community in the way that in my opinion, that we should be. Doesn't mean it's terrible or bad. It's just not up to that level that I believe we all should be operating at. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's a big part of it for me, is just looking at location, trying find the best location in any particular community. But yeah, Jamon, when you get into a particular laundromat, assuming the laws of supply and demand are tipped in your favor, I always recommend that people look at things that are either impossible to overcome or difficult to overcome. So those would be things like parking. Is there ample parking, or is there opportunity to expand parking if there's not ample parking? Sometimes it's an easy scenario, like I just rent the lot next door and now I got plenty of parking. A lot of times you're landlocked and there is nothing you can do. In the store itself, you're obviously looking at things like the age of the equipment, the condition of the equipment, the safety of the location. Not that those things can't be overcome, but you and I, Jordan, both know that that's a tough road to hoe.
Mm-hmm.
And there's definitely some value add in hoeing that road, if that's the right way to say that.
I
But
don't think you
yeah,
really
so I mean,
typically hoe roads.
hoe,
You do that more
hoe
in
roads.
gardens, but
Yeah, I don't know
yeah.
about that, but
Yeah.
anyway. Uh, but yeah, I mean, you're obviously looking at the footprint of the store. I
Yeah.
always recommend that people, especially as the laundromat industry kind of evolves into more of this, 7 or 8 different business models. There's smaller unattended, medium, large unattended. There's partially attended, fully attended, and then you evolve into what I call laundry centers, which is more what I do nowadays with pickup and delivery and drop off and having layers of management.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what your ambitions are, look at the location as far as just square footage and say, can I grow into this? Is this something that I'm going to outgrow in 2 years? Because if you have ambitions of doing something like what I've done and many other people in the industry have done in creating a more of a laundry center, then you probably don't want to take on a small location that's landlocked without proper parking and no storage. You can do a lot with square footage. Those are just a few things that kind of jump off the bat for me as far as those types of things. What do you think?
What's square footage? What does that mean? We don't have that where I'm from.
You don't have square footage?
Yeah.
What is it,
Barely.
metric?
I mean, we have like a little bit of that. Okay, so
do you guys measure everything in metric? Is that what you do?
Yeah, no. What do you think? We're Canadian? Come on.
No offense to our Canadian audience. We have plenty of them.
Trying to just, poke the Canadian bears up there a little bit.
Poke the bear.
Wake them up. Okay, full disclosure, I was compiling some questions, so you may have already addressed this. But, just very basically, when you're boots on the ground, I'm also, and maybe you already said this again, so sorry if you did. But, I'm looking for the condition of the equipment, the condition of the store. I'm looking to have a conversation with clients, customers there, not as a potential buyer, but just to have conversation, to get a feel of what's this community like, what's this area like, especially if it's not in your immediate area that you're looking to buy. What kind of client is coming to the laundromat, and is that the type of client that you want to continue to come to the laundromat? I think you're looking at things like what are the vend prices also, and kind of seeing where, if there are opportunities, while you're looking at that for improvement in providing value, and therefore increasing vend prices in the store. So, I mean, and this is all, prior to you making any kind of decision. So this is all sort of on a higher up level that I'm talking about. You're not really necessarily digging deep into all that until you're ready to, start digging deeper. But, I'm looking at all of those things, and like you mentioned too, the surrounding area is probably more important than the specific store, to make sure that you have a pretty good grasp on that area and what kind of area it is too. I mean, you mentioned, if you're in a rougher neighborhood, there can be a lot of great opportunities there, but there's a good chance, and I'm just saying this because this is my experience and I've talked to some other owners, but there's a good chance that in order to in an area like that, in order to realize the opportunity that may be there, you're going to have to earn it, or there's a good chance you're going to have to really earn it through, yes, maybe rehabbing the store, but also what I found to be much more difficult is rehabbing the reputation of the store. So I don't know. Those are a few things. I think there's a lot of things that you could be looking for, but keeping it basic until you're ready to dig deeper. Because if you're going around looking at a lot of laundromats, you don't want to be, spending a ton of time on laundromats that are never really going to fit what you're looking for. And that's kind of what you were saying in terms of, what do you want in a laundromat? Do you want, a small, unattended laundromat that you want to run on the side while you work full time? Well, that's one business model, and you're probably looking for one thing. And if you want to run, an empire like Dave's doing, then you're going to need something completely different than that owner who wants, to run an unattended small laundromat on the side. So.
Yeah. And I'll point out too that, keep in mind that where you start isn't necessarily where you finish. In fact, most of the time it's not. So,
not for you, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't know if common is the right word, but I mean, we all evolve and grow and we figure out what works for us and what we enjoy and what we don't enjoy, what we want to pursue and what we don't. One of the reasons I like to tell my story is just to inspire people to see that whatever their dreams are or their possibilities are or their ambitions are, like, go chase it. I mean, I started at the bottom of the industry with very little money and a full-time job and a 3-week-old baby at home and a 2-year-old at home and a 10-year-old at home and a wife with her own full-time career. Things were about as crazy as possible for us, and we were not in an ideal situation to take over any business, but especially one that wasn't turnkey. But the reality is, we made a lot of sacrifices, delayed a lot of gratification, but, we grinded through that, improved the businesses, reinvested the money, evolved through the different models in the industry. And, 10, 12 years later, here we are in a different place. And I plan to continue to, evolve and grow with the industry as I gain more knowledge and education. So I think it's important too for people to just see, hey, you start where you have to start. And a lot of times that is based on what's available in your area. A lot of times it's based on your capital position, your free, when it comes to sweat equity, a lot of times that has to do with your skill set. Some of us are, think nothing of putting on a tool belt and rewiring a house. But some of us think that's crazy. But Jordan likes to share pictures on Facebook of him, conquering an entire house of electrical wiring, just because he was bored and didn't have a new TV show to watch, or there wasn't any good surfing out in the ocean that night or something. But anyway, yeah, we're rambling. But my point is that there's, when it comes to boots on the ground, Jamon, the reality is, what I would actually recommend you do before you even get true boots on the ground, meaning walking around from laundromat to laundromat. And you can do these simultaneously, don't get me wrong, but I would recommend that you focus on your education, because you're going to learn a lot out in the field, looking at laundromats, doing laundry, joining shows like this, watching Jordan's podcast, all these type of things. But at the same time, you can learn a lot from books and resources and all these types of things too. So there's a million things when you're new to the industry and you don't know anything, you don't know what you don't know. There's a million different ways you can go about it. But what I always tell people that I'm coaching with, especially, is, hey, take advantage of these free resources that are out there. The Laundromat Resource Podcast, the Laundromat Millionaire Podcast, my podcast, books that are out there that may not be free, but are limited, join the CLA, whatever resources you can find out there that are limited or, low income, low cost, or free. Take advantage of those, because as long as you're not ever making decisions based on those, then you can't really get yourself in a whole lot of trouble by just gathering information and being smarter. Eventually you'll figure out that you kind of see some consistencies across platforms that deliver, I don't know if this might be saying it the wrong way, but credible information, legitimate information, versus, seeing that someone just has an ulterior motive, is, trying to sell you a teddy bear or whatever. So just gather a lot of information and try not to make any decisions based off that, but just gather information as you're going through the process of looking at laundromats and things like that. So I mean, to be honest with you, we could talk for 2 hours, probably just about this alone if we dove down on it. But Jamon, hopefully that helps you out a little bit. Yeah, you're gonna say something.
But we won't, and I'm gonna cut you off because we have other questions to get to.
You have the why? Did you bring the gong with you on the trip? Is that what you're saying? The gong. Dave's time is up.
There to sell. Actually, real quick. Hey, Dennis,
Justin, welcome, man. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Justin and Dennis. Thanks, guys.
Yes.
I want to get to in just a second. Somebody had asked about promotions that work well, and somebody else had asked about how to hire now and how to retain employees. I want to get to those in a second, but I feel like this question we just were addressing in terms of what to be doing boots on the ground kind of led semi-naturally into Manrup said, what advice do you have for a college student who wants to start a laundromat but has no capital? And I feel like some of the things that we were just talking about might play well into that. So you want to jump on that first?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, a lot of what we just said in regarding to Jamon's question. Hopefully you're taking notes, Manrup. But yeah, there's a lot of free information out there. When it comes to not having any capital, I was there, and I'm going to just speak very frank, because I'm a big believer in telling people what they need to hear versus what they want to hear. And I don't know your situation, so I'm not trying to discourage you by any means. Hey, Luke, thanks for joining us. But the reality is, like, sometimes you're just not ready, and that's okay. But you could sit here and feel sorry for yourself and say, I'm a poor college student. I wasn't a college student, but I was poor. And I worked really hard, lived below my means, me and my family did, for 5 years to save up roughly $25,000 to $30,000 in seed money to buy our first rundown dumpy laundromat that was losing money. So the reality is that sometimes that's the answer to the question. What do you got?
Oh, sorry. Joe Dan was asking what I was drinking. So keep going. I don't want to disrupt you, but I did anyways. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I thought maybe you had some like affiliate thing going on. If you show it on the camera 3 times during an episode, you get $50 or something.
I got to sell my teddy bear and then I have
right. That's right. Yeah. Now that you've distracted me.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. But yeah, I mean, I know that might not be the answer you want to hear, but that's a lot of times a place to start. But the reality is, if you're in college, I would assume you're fairly young. So don't get too ahead of yourself. You have your whole life ahead of you. Sometimes, and I'm not saying this is the case, let me be clear. Sometimes that's what's necessary to get to where you need to get to. A lot of times in life, there's this, I don't know what the right mentality is, but impatience, I guess, is what I would call it. When you're prepared, the opportunities will present themselves. If you're not prepared right now, it doesn't matter if the opportunities present themselves. But you can't really control the opportunities to a high level. But what you can do is control how prepared you are tomorrow, or the next day, or the next day after that. And I can personally say that because I've literally been there. There was a time when I was, I think I was around 28 or so, and I wanted to own my own business, probably worse than I ever had in my entire life. And I just looked up one day and was like, I'm not ready. Like, I don't have any money. I mean, I had some debt. It wasn't crazy, but I had some debt, had a young family. And so I decided I'm going to do something about it. Starting tomorrow, every month, every week, every year, I'm going to try to be a little bit better prepared, and I'm going to continue to look for opportunities. Now, that being said, me and Jordan will both tell you that there are opportunities out there where you can start with limited to no capital. So, that's a different, that's a whole different conversation. Jordan's got some good videos on the free laundromat stuff. I've got a couple out there. And so that's a good place to start. The thing I would caution you on is like, don't get too over your skis with that, because it's not near as easy to find them, and it's not as near as easy to execute as a lot of people on the internet like to make it out to be. Hey, Alex, thanks for joining us. Alex is Art Yeager's son. So yeah, that's cool to have you. Man. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, he's out there on the West Coast too. So you got a fan club coming in.
That's right.
But yeah, so once again, a lot of stuff we talked about with Jamon's comment, or question is applicable to you. You probably figured that out by now. And guys, in the comments section, like there's a lot of very successful laundromat owners in the comments section. A lot of these people are mine and Jordan's friends. So feel free to pipe in, guys. Like give your opinion. Like this is not the Dave and Jordan show. You know, when you see these questions like this, you know, obviously we know you're here to listen and learn as well, and we appreciate that. But you guys are very experienced laundromat owners. So give tricks, how you started, what you did, things like that. You know, we have a few guys that are new to the industry and looking to get into the industry. We want everyone to be sharing knowledge and information with each other, not just sitting here listening to me and Jordan talk. We're going to keep talking because I just can't shut Jordan up. But anyway.
I'm trying to jump in here and I just can't even.
He's been waiting for like 5 minutes. All right. Gong has spoken.
Yeah. Well, real quick, I mean, I don't want to belabor the point, but I think Dave nailed it. Like right now, when you're in college, you have an opportunity that is not an opportunity that you're going to have for your whole life. And that opportunity is for you to just focus on education and learning this industry, whatever kind of all kinds of different things, right? That's the whole point of being in college is you're learning new things, right? But you're not going to learn everything you need to learn about life and about business and all that in college. So keep learning, just like Dave was saying, utilizing the free resources, all of that. Yes, do that. I want to give you one other option in terms of getting in with no money that I've seen work, and this is not for everybody, and but it could be for you. So I just want to throw it out there, and it's this. I heard at one point in time on, I think, the Bigger Pockets podcast that you know, in order to get a deal done, you know, an investor needs time, time, money, and education and knowledge about the industry, right? So if you take a look at where you're at in life, you might have some flexible time and you might be able to accumulate that education, and you might not have that money, but you might be able to find somebody who has that money but doesn't have the time or the education in industry to partner with. And as somebody who's young, if you go in there and you can demonstrate that you've done the work of learning the business, then you might be able to say to an investor who wants to get in the industry but doesn't want to manage a business, hey, let's partner on this, give them the lion's share of the business and use it as an opportunity to get your foot in the door, to learn the business from the inside, and to have a partner, probably somebody who's a little bit wiser and older and more experienced in life, to do business with. So that's another option that I've seen work. And again, it's not for everybody, and you need to be the kind of person that somebody is going to want to invest their money in, because that's kind of what they would be doing, is investing, yes, in a laundromat, but also investing in you as a person and as an operator. So you need to be that kind of person by preparing yourself, by learning, by educating, by getting around other people in this industry. So long story short, keep at it, man. Keep learning and keep taking one step at a time, right? Take one step down the path, see where it takes you, and then take another one.
The education should always come first.
Yeah, let's talk about promotion. That was the first question asked. I think the question was, what's the best promotion you've ever done? So I don't know if you have one specifically for you, but we can talk about, you know, promotions that have worked in this industry too.
So yeah, I'm a little odd there. I'm a little torn there. Always have been, and still, quite frankly, am. I think this is one of the things I haven't really totally figured out yet, and I don't know that there is an answer, at least for me. Like I try to run to higher end operation as far as facilities and customer service, and you know what I call my value proposition. And so I don't believe in discounting that type of service. I believe in delivering on the value, charging accordingly, and attracting the customers that will appreciate that value. So the discounting model or mindset doesn't really work in that scenario. It's just not applicable. That being said, probably the best promotion I've ever heard of or seen kind of falls in line with that, which is, and I don't even remember who it was that told me this, but I'm actually going to do it in my new store I'm opening in a few months. And what that is opening the store and offering free wash for a month. And this is a good example for like
you probably heard that on my podcast.
I probably did. You're probably right. No, in fact, I think
take credit for that if that works.
I think I'm definitely right, actually, or you're definitely right. Somebody's right. Probably not me. But no, I think it's fantastic. And like I said, I plan on using it. I think it can apply to a new build in a new store, but it can certainly apply to just a retrofit that you've made a significant difference in. And if you take over an older rundown laundromat and let's say it takes you a year or two to fix it up. Okay, well, you don't have to call it a grand opening or use particular signage or whatever. You can just advertise a free wash for a month and you don't have to have any reason for it other than I'm just trying to attract foot traffic in my door. The things I struggle with that, and to back up for a second, the promotion that I've probably had the most success with that I don't know that I'll ever do again was when I opened my first store, or not opened, it was already open. But when I took over my first store, I did a lot of work in the first couple months to really turn it around. I put some new equipment in, and I decided to run a $1 double loader. And keep in mind, this is 12 years ago, but I decided to run a $1 double loader for a month. And I did it, and it attracted an insane amount of foot traffic, and 90% of it was foot traffic I didn't want in my store, and I would never want in my store again. I never wanted them back. So that's like the flip side to it is like when you run monetary promotions and you're discounting your services, I struggle with this, and I'm actually curious your opinion and even other people's opinions. I see some experienced operators commenting in the comment section. We appreciate that because I want to learn from you as well. But I struggle with this because of my mindset, my mentality, the things I've tried that technically accomplish the goals I wanted to accomplish, which is driving people to my store to see that we're different than we used to be. But the problem is the type of people that it attracts is really not the type of customers that I at least am going after or ever had a desire to go after. And so I don't know if you can consider that a success when you drive a bunch of people to your store and then you're like, but I don't even want their business. And I know that sounds like incredibly elitist, but it's just the truth. So, for what that's worth, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. And Steve kind of followed up with, do you like doing the free wash better than, so the Willifords do double your money when they first open. So they're a card store. They have their Freedom, payment system, and they do double your money for a month, where if you add money to your card, they'll double it, which I think, here's my take on it. I have a very basic philosophy, especially if you're opening a new store or you are, doing a grand reopening or something like that. Here's my kind of marketing philosophy. And I think the point that you bring up of who you're attracting is a key question, right? Because not all customers are equal. They're not all created equal. And I don't think that it's elitist to say, there's certain customers I don't want to attract. What I think it is smart business, and then somebody who knows that not all customers are equal. Because if you own a laundromat, then you probably know that there are customers who are going to try to pay as little as possible, and they're going to complain as much as possible, and they're going to just create an atmosphere in your store that is not the atmosphere that you want, right? And when people come in with negativity like that, complaining about stuff, that kind of stuff spreads, and that's not really what you want. So with all that said, here's my sort of basic philosophy on this is, number one, the promotion matters to a degree, but here's sort of the process of it is, if you're trying to get wherever you're at, if you're opening a new store or just wanting to do a promotion, the point of doing a promotion is to get people into your store, right? And the right people into your store. Now, in order to do that, and really what you're trying to do is change their habits, right? You're trying to change their habits from doing their laundry in whatever way they're currently doing their laundry, and you want them to do their laundry with you, whether that's self-serve or drop off or pick up and delivery, whatever the case. You need them to change their current habits. Now, there's some study, I can't remember, somebody came on the podcast and pointed the study out, but that basically said, hey, if you can get somebody to come to your store 3 times, then you're in pretty good shape. So my basic philosophy is do something, step one, do something dramatic to get people into your store one time, something dramatic. So that's free wash for a weekend, free wash for a month, free, whatever, double your money. as long as it's attracting the right people, do something. It's got to be dramatic, right? To kind of snap them out of that habit of whatever it is. Step 2 is once you get them in the door the first time, your main goal, you have 2 goals really. 1, make sure they have a good experience. 2, get them to come back a second time. So whether that's, I think, just for the record, the double your money and the free wash both accomplish all 3 of these things in one fell swoop, which is why I think they're both really powerful methods. But if you're not doing something that dramatic, maybe you're doing a weekend or something, your goal should be to get them to come back the second time. So that's offering another promotion of some sort, or, whatever the case may be. And then when they come back the second time, your main goal is to get them to come back a third time. And then after that, statistically speaking, according to this study, they're your customer. And if you make sure they have a good experience, then they are going to be your customer. So that's what I have to say about it. And, I think the actual promotion only matters to the extent that it's dramatic. And I think it does have to be dramatic. And I've run promotions that were not dramatic. Like I've done like similar to your, dollar double loader stuff. And that's good, but that's not dramatic, right? Free is dramatic. Double your money, that's dramatic. That's what gets people's attention and snaps them out of their current habits. Does that make sense? Oh, I don't know if I'm frozen. Oh,
your question back up. You there? Can you hear us? Okay. I'm going to jump in anyways. I'm not sure if we lost Jordan or not. But yeah, so to answer your question, Steve, I think what Luke Williford does with their loyalty cards and stuff, I think it's genius. I think it's fantastic. The reason I don't do that and I do free wash instead is because I don't use the payment systems that require customers to load money on anything. Doesn't mean I won't change in the future. That's just what I do right now. We offer the hybrid systems or the dollar coin, along with like the fast card system where people just swipe your credit or debit card and hit start, and it removes the money from their bank account and puts it in our bank account. So in our business model, my point is that there is no opportunity for me to double their money other than just handing out dollar coins, and that doesn't seem like a good idea. But yeah, in that environment, if you're using a phone pay app or something like that, you're using a payment system like the Willifords or a loyalty card system, or I think if you're in that scenario, as far as a payment system, I think it's a genius thing to do. I know for a fact it's effective. I've talked to Luke about it and it's very powerful. And getting people to come back, because if they have, if they have a buck or two, then that might not bring them back to the store. But if they have 5, 10, 15, 20, or, $50 or $100, you can pretty much bet your life they're coming back to our store. If for no other reason to use that. And so if you give them a good experience and they come back, regardless of why, they come back and have another good experience, now you've left a great impression on them multiple times. But if they come back just for that purpose, but they had a bad experience the first time, now you kind of get a second chance to make a first impression. So either way, I think it's a great idea. It just doesn't fall within line of my payment system, which is why I do the free wash. Also, the reason I do the free wash for a month is very intentional, and it's to try to get people in my store 3 times. That's once again goes back to what Jordan was talking about. Yeah, Taylor Hawkins, hey, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you being here. Guys, keep the questions coming. These are fantastic. Absolutely. Alex Yeager says, need the right demographic. Absolutely. Want those customers that will come back after your promo's ended. Mm-hmm. That point, guys. That's the point. You haven't accomplished anything by driving a bunch of people in your store that aren't going to come back, aren't going to respect your store. Once again, the type of people you don't even want in your store to begin with. That's not what we're looking for, no matter how busy your store looks. So great point, Alex.
Well, there's an early question about, right now, I think everybody kind of across the board is struggling to hire employees right now. That's kind of across the board, I think. And so I think it was Steve, I can't remember who asked it, but, are there incentives to hire people? Are there ways to, entice people to come work with you basically at your laundromat right now? And is there any nuance between the different kinds of shifts, part-time, versus full-time versus, whatever the job role may be, attendant versus, folder, whatever. But how do you get people to come work for you, I think is the essence of that question.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I'll say is I might have this a little bit backwards, but I really believe this. If you have a positive culture and a positive environment for your customers, then the community knows that. And if you're new, I mean, you can't have something you haven't worked for yet. But I think once you're an established operator, if you have a positive culture, if you have a positive culture and environment for your existing employees, they're more likely to refer their friends, their people in their network. If you have a positive culture and environment and a safe environment, then you might personally feel more comfortable trying to recruit someone from your personal network, from church or from the bar or whatever, your cousin, your daughter, whatever. So I really believe that a lot of that comes to um, it just comes from having a positive culture, being confident in that's something that's a focus of yours, something that's very important to you. So I'm going to start with that as like the premise that I think that's much more powerful than just a one-off. I think it's a kind of a foundational thing that you kind of have to start with before you start thinking about incentivizing people. Now, I know in Steve Andrews' case, if that was his question, I know for a fact he does have that environment. And so he's probably like, okay, well, I've checked that box. What I'm doing in the culture it's in right now, and I've never done this before because we are in a crazy time as far as labor and things like that. If you're watching this in the future, this is being recorded in June 2021, which is, just a labor crisis. There's no other way to put it. And we don't know how long this will last, but as a business owner, especially if you're growing your business, like you can't sit around, pat yourself on the back or sit around, feel sorry for yourself. Of the environment is what it is. And our job as entrepreneurs is to overcome obstacles, find solutions. And the reality is sometimes throwing money at a problem will solve the problem. Now, we can't give people $20,000 signing bonuses, but he asked really, I think ultimately the question is, what am I doing? We have increased our pay, which we wanted to do anyways. We first raised our prices so that we could increase our compensation. So we just passed that on to our team basically and rewarded them. We are for the first time paying a $200 signing bonus. We require them to be with us for 90 days and have perfect attendance. And those are kind of the two caveats. If you don't work here 90 days, you don't get it. If you don't have perfect attendance in the first 90 days, you don't get it. So, we do want them to prove themselves a little bit. Those are the things that I have done. I do know many people that have been very successful by hiring people part-time with an incentivization of being full-time. You earn your way to full-time, you earn more hours. I do know people that have paid night differential, $1 more on the hour if you work after 5 p.m. or weekend shifts. Or the only thing we really do with that is we have 5 holidays a year, which are Thanksgiving, Christmas, Mother's Day, Father's Day, and Easter. Those are our 5 days where if anyone works any shift on those days, we pay them time and a half. Even if they only work 10 hours, even if they're nowhere near 40 hours, we pay them time and a half for working those shifts on those particular days because we see their time as more valuable in that time. So we pay an incentive for things like that on what we consider holidays, where people's time is vitally important to them and very valuable. But those are some of the things that we've done, but I know many other people that have done a lot of different, what they call shift differential type of pay and things like that. I can't really say if they've had success with it or not. I've never talked with them in detail about it, but I know a lot of people do that kind of stuff. So if they do it, it must work. Have you had any experience with that?
In terms of shift differentials? No.
Or even just signing bonus. I mean, I know we're all hiring, right? We're all hiring all the time, basically.
Training somebody last night when you called me. So yeah. I mean, listen, right now, I think is a time we need to be a little more creative and a little more flexible, right? So there's different things that we can do, and monetary, and I think you're exactly right. Like throwing money at the problem, if you're able to, is maybe the way to do it, right? But you also have an opportunity right now to think a little more creatively. What else can you offer? And offering opportunities to move up kind of the chain or move to full-time, or offering opportunities to move up to a management position. Those kinds of things are non-monetary things that you can offer where that might incentivize somebody to come work for you. But there are other things too, like things like helping to pay for school, or certain kinds of training, or so now's a really great time to be thinking about what would really benefit people in your demographic of who you're looking to hire. What would really benefit them? And yeah, obviously we all could benefit from more money, but also be thinking like, are there other things that you can offer, especially if you can't really offer a whole lot more money, or whatever. Like, be thinking of other ways to incentivize. It's a great time to be creative, because I think that the people who are probably doing both, probably offering monetary and non-monetary incentives, are the ones that are going to get ahead the most, are the ones that are going to be providing the most value, which means that you can increase your prices like Dave did, which means you can offer that monetary incentive. So, think of monetary incentives, yes, but also think of non-monetary incentives, and what else you can offer people.
Yeah, something we've also had experience with too is just offering upward mobility, and I realize not everybody can offer that depending on their organization, but really what Jordan and I are saying is use whatever you got,
Yeah,
whatever
exactly.
you got to do. I think we all agree that location and people are the keys to success in probably any business, but definitely the laundromat business. A lot of people like to make this industry out to be an exception. It's not an exception, guys. We're no different than any other industry. We got to deliver value. But my point is, we've had tremendous success with offering people upward mobility because of the organization we've built. We can offer attendance part-time positions to start, and then hey, you can work your way up to full-time or as full-time as you want. Maybe you start at 30 hours if you don't want 40. You just reward people according to their behavior and their value that they bring to the business. But that can also involve things like being promoted from a store attendant to a laundry processor, which is in our organization is a significant pay increase. You can be promoted to a store manager. You could be moved from an attendant to a delivery driver, which is technically an increase in pay and certainly more freedom. We have trainers, we have supervisors that work third shift with the crews. Like I said, we have store managers at each store. We have an assistant general manager that helps run the whole company, and we have a general manager. All 40 of our employees report to our assistant GM and our GM. Now, we weren't always in that situation, but the point is, if you build an organization that's something like that, or even a lesser or more version of that, what you can point to during the interviewing process and the training process is the opportunity for upward mobility. And not everybody wants that, which is fine. So it doesn't strike the chord with everyone. But with what I call the rock stars, the people that are looking to really do something with their life and better themselves, a lot of times that means way more than money. It's kind of going back to, what would you rather have, education or money? Well, you give them the money, they spend it, the money's gone. A lot of people would take the education. Same type of thing as far as opportunity and hours and things like that. So there's a million different ways you can incentivize people. But I think we're hitting on a lot of the same themes here, for sure. Yeah, but I put it up there on the screen for a minute, but Steve Andrews said they do weekend shift differential. They pay an extra $1 an hour on Saturday and an extra $2 an hour on Sunday. Once again, be creative, do what you can. And a lot of it too has to do with how hard it is to fill those positions. We have third shift laundry processors that work overnight when the store is closed, processing all of our pickup and delivery laundry. Third shift, I don't know what the numbers are, but I bet it's 90 to 95% of society wants nothing to do with working third shift. Doesn't matter what the job is, doesn't matter what the pay is, doesn't matter what the benefits are. They want nothing to do with working that shift. So when you're hiring for that type of a position, you need to know that, and you need to make decisions accordingly, if that makes sense. So, yeah. Hey, Max Marcinetti jumped in here. Thanks for, he says, how's it going, fellas? Good to have you join us, my friend, for sure. We got some other newbies too, and Ride a Rodeo. I'm not sure if that's someone we know or if it's a newbie, but whatever your name is, we're happy to have you, Rodeo.
Yeah, let's get to that question in a second. But Alex Yeager asked a question. How are you doing? Just wanted to get your opinions on how to manage your margins on pickup and drop off. I think that's a tailor-made question for you. to blow our minds, man.
Yeah, what I would tell people is you have to, in any business, you have to treat it like a business. So you have to, sometimes that involves reverse engineering your profit centers and saying, okay, I'm charging this. What's, and I can't give away too much in details about my business model, unfortunately, but I can tell you that you got to find those margins somewhere. And so as an example, Alex, if you're saying, okay, my pickup and delivery revenue as an example, I want my margins to be at 30%. Okay, let's take our revenue. Let's back out 30%. Let's back out our fixed numbers. Let's back out our delivery, our logistical costs, van payments, insurance, things that are pretty much fixed for the most part. And then let's factor in our gasoline and then we can look at something like a logistics business like pickup and delivery, and we can say, okay, the logistics side of things scales, meaning as you capture more market share, then your drivers are automatically going to become more efficient. So your logistics cost as you scale and capture market share should naturally be dropping, meaning that's going to go to your bottom line, or at least it should. And then you look at other expenses like what does it cost you to process a pound of laundry? And that's labor, that's workers' comp, that's insurance, that's the cost of your packaging, that's the cost of your supplies, that's the cost of your utilities, wear and tear on your machines. All these things need to be factored in. And then you say, okay, do those things scale? Like if it costs me 65 cents a pound to process laundry, packaging and all those things included, labor and everything, if I go from 2,000 pounds a week to 3,000 pounds a week, or even 3,000 pounds a day, does that scale? Well, our experience has been that on the processing side, it doesn't really scale. You can get in a situation where, better trained, more experienced processors can process at a faster pace, and you can incentivize them accordingly, which we do, and you can drop your labor rate a little bit, but it doesn't really scale. The logistics side of things, if you send a truck 20, 25 minutes from your house and you're just started yesterday and they're driving 25 minutes to pick up one 23-pound order of laundry, and then they're going to turn around and come back to your home or back to your base, your store, then you lost money before they got back at the store because you went and picked up a 23-pound order. But if you go and you scale that and you say, okay, let's fast forward 2 years, and we send that same truck 25 minutes away and they pick up 700 pounds of laundry and turn around and come back, then that's economies of scale. And so you have to look at your business model and say, okay, what are the different percentages? Where do those need to be? That sometimes we reverse engineer even our price. We say, okay, these numbers aren't going to change. These numbers are going to change with scale, but I got to get there, meaning I got to at least not lose money, even if I don't make a whole lot as I get to scale. And then you just have to reverse engineer and say, okay, I can't charge $1.79 a pound for pickup and delivery. I need to charge $2.75 a pound for pickup and delivery. And sometimes that's the answer to the question, is starting, once again, you can go in either direction, but that's really what it is categorizing them into kind of what I consider different departments. There's the processing side, there's the logistics side. You can call it high level, you should have your marketing costs. If you're using a software service, you're going to have to pay licensing fees and royalties and things for those things. So some of those are more fixed than other things. But that's when I tell people with pickup and delivery, you have to run it like a business. I recommend that they separate their revenues. Now, the reason for that is it's just simply easier to keep an eye on. It doesn't mean it's not one business or it's 10 businesses. That's not really the point. It's about the revenue. It's about the revenue streams and tracking them. Because I can tell you for a fact that I get calls on an almost weekly basis of people from my coaching services offering me ridiculous amounts of money because they're doing $20,000, $25,000 a month in pickup and delivery and sometimes more, but they're losing money or they're breaking even. And if they can throw a $20,000, $30,000 check at me, and I can turn that into a business that makes them $15,000, $20,000 a month in profit, then they know they'll get that money back real quickly.
Well worth it.
Yeah. So the point is that they know they're onto something. They have the revenue, they have the sales, they have the customers. They just haven't figured out how to quantify it and turn it into a profitable business. So, people are willing to pay significant amounts of money to kind of dissect those numbers, and you just have to figure out where those fall and what's reasonable. The size of your market can have a lot to do with that. It's a lot easier to make money in a logistics business if you got one van that runs 5 miles from your store in any direction, and that's what you do. It's a lot harder to make money in logistics business when you're biting off chunks of territory that are 2,000 square miles surrounding a metro area. I mean, you got to decide what do you want your business to look like? So I don't know if that answered your question, but there's really a lot to that. And that could honestly be a whole show too.
Yeah. Let me just sum it up for you, Alex. Give Dave Menz 20 grand and he will help you manage your margins. That's my takeaway from this. But in all honesty, do that. But in all honesty, again, yeah, I mean, I love the idea of kind of backing into things and saying, okay, well, what do you want your margins to be? And then what number do you need to be at in order to get there? And there's a lot of variables. I mean, you mentioned some, you didn't even mention all of them, I don't think, but there's a lot of variables, and you're not going to know, especially if you're just starting or you're just ramping up, you're not going to know those numbers. So the other thing I just wanted to point out is that it's not like a one and done type of thing. This is like an ongoing, when you manage something, you have to keep coming back to it. That's what the managing part of it is. It's not, set your price, set your pay scale, and you're good to go, because things are in flux all over the place. I mean, gas prices here are up over $4 a gallon now. And so they're just, even that in and of itself is, that affects your margins, right? So if you want to stay at 30% margins and gas prices are $1 more a gallon than they were last year, then you got to adjust things, right? So that's the only other thing I wanted to add to that is you got to keep coming back to that and putting that on a schedule of some sort, whether that's quarterly or, biannually or semi-annually, twice a year. Which one? I don't know. Either way.
Biannually is every other year.
Oh, okay. So I meant semi-annually.
Yes.
I don't know, man. Whatever the schedule is, but I recommend putting that on a schedule and managing it, because that is something that will fluctuate. So.
Yeah, and I'll add one more thing before we jump on to the next question.
I'm going to one up you again after you add this. I'm going to add something else.
Right. We'll do this all day. Just keep bringing them value.
I will lose. Dang it. Or we all win.
Yeah. No, touch on a little bit more. But really, my point is, and you guys know me. I mean, I'm all about telling you what you want to hear versus what you need to hear. Us small business owners spend too much time working in our business versus working on our business. And it's real easy for me to sit here, excuse me, and know that you need to be watching your margins and focusing on your vision and looking at your logistical costs. And I hear a lot of small business owners saying, well, how can I do that? I'm driving my van. I'm, fixing my washers, whatever that looks like. And I get that, but you got to find a way out of that. Because if you truly want to scale your business, and I'm not saying you snap your fingers and all of a sudden you have millions of dollars and you just don't have to fix your own equipment. I'm saying you got to find a way around that. And sometimes that does mean working more hours as a means to an end. Mm-hmm. But you have to work in your business at times. I get it. I've been there. I've done it. Luckily, I'm not really there anymore. But the reality is that if you are in a position where you have to work in your business, then you do what you have to do. But you also have to find a way to work on your business. Otherwise, you'll never be able to get away from working in your business. It'll never happen. And so a lot of the things that Jordan's talking about, he's hitting a lot of the nails on the head there, but you got to find the time to do that. Sometimes that means sacrificing your personal time. Sometimes it means, investing in things, over hiring. We talked about the hiring a few minutes ago. Steve knows this because he's visited me in Cincinnati, but we're big believers in over hiring. If we have 2 positions open, we hire 3 or 4 people. We've been doing that for not 12 years, but probably for 7 or 8 years. Yeah. But the reality is there's a cost associated with that, right? Like it's not free. I mean, I just told you I have an assistant GM. We hired her in anticipation of our new store in anticipation of growth, but we hired over a year ago. She's the second most highly paid person in our organization of 40 people. And so she's pretty well compensated. And I basically, don't get me wrong, it's not like she hadn't done anything. But we didn't need her position. We didn't need her payroll. We could have got away with her without her being on the payroll for the last year and a half. But we knew we had to bring her in ahead of time so that she was trained in a well-oiled machine and knew how to help run this organization a year and a half ahead of when we needed her. A lot of times with small business owners, they're not willing to make those sacrifices. And so that's why a lot of times we stay small. So. Hopefully that helps you. But really what it boils down to is you just got to focus on the small things and you got to mind your your dollars and cents and make sure that everything is on the up and up.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. And creating a plan, right? Like you said, you have to make time for working on your business. And yeah, many of us, we have to work in our business, but you got to create some time to create a plan to create space, right? While you're driving, mentally create a plan to create some space and figure out how to do it. So plan to plan, I guess.
Yes, absolutely.
Taylor has a question. I'm not sure that I understand it, and maybe you do, but maybe Taylor, you can kind of clarify. It says, any thoughts on setting your default wash setting to medium deluxe instead of basic wash? So I know that, there's different, hey, Stacy, welcome. I know there's different ways to configure your machine. So I'm not exactly sure what medium/deluxe settings are versus basic wash. So I don't know if you have something to say on that.
Setting. The only thing I can think of is maybe he's referring to like the amount of baths. Like and Taylor, jump back in the comment section and help us out a little bit here, because we want to help you out. The only thing I can think of is he's thinking like, any thoughts to setting up your standard wash as 2 wash baths with 3 rinse baths for $4 or whatever, versus 1 wash bath and 2 rinses, or 1 wash and 1. Taylor, let us know if we're on the right path. I think that goes back to your value proposition, and it also depends on your equipment, cycle modifiers, things like that. I mean, I'll just tell you what I do, because that's how I answer a lot of questions for people. We do the standard cycle that comes from the factory, at least for this is for our Hipsch equipment, which is 1 wash bath and 2 rinse baths. But they have cycle modifiers on them where we can charge extra for an extra wash and an extra rinse. So if they want to get that 2-3 versus 1-2, then they just have to pay more depending on the size of the machine, of course. And if they don't need that, I don't want them to have to pay for that. And the other thing I'll say too is I've noticed it took me a few years to figure this out in the industry, but a lot of people are actually annoyed by 2 wash baths and 3 rinse baths because of the time. If they just have, so Jordan's one of them.
I hate that.
Yeah, if you just have regular laundry, let's call it just regularly dirty laundry, not heavily soiled, and you just want to get it clean, you don't need 2 wash baths and 3 rinse baths to get that stuff clean. But people value their time more than ever before, but they always have valued their time. And so they will, I've actually seen many situations in laundromats where people will stop using them basically because the machines take too long. That's how they perceive them. So I think it's, I don't know if that answers your question. Let's see if it scrolls down, see if he gives us any more. No, nothing yet. But anyway, I suspect that's what he's asking. I'm hoping we're hitting the nail on the head.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I'm just to kind of, that's what I do as well. I keep the factory settings, and then I offer modifiers for the people who do want that. And people do, use that. A lot of people who are, work in construction or just, heavily soiled stuff, they want and need sometimes 2 washes, 3 rinses or whatever. And equipment nowadays gives you that option. If you have older equipment, you may not have the ability to offer that. But if you have the ability, offer that. And again, that's value that you're giving to the customer. So you charge accordingly, depending on the size of the machine and all that.
Mike, sorry, go ahead. Did you?
No, do it.
Yeah. So Mike posted a question here. I thought maybe we could hit. Whoops, that's the wrong one. See if I can get my cursor out of the way. After purchasing a zombie mat, is it better to retool right away or wait a few months to get your feet wet and understand the business and customer habits? So you want to take a shot at that? I think it's a pretty good question, especially with having, it seems like maybe about half the people in here are moderately new to the industry. So even if you guys haven't bought a zombie mat yet or thinking about it, you might need to have this question answered. And if you're right in the middle of it, then might be useful.
Yeah, well, I will say that right now, more than likely, either way, you're going to be waiting a few months after you buy it. So
that's very true. Order your equipment now; it'll take a year to come in.
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit irrelevant of a question, but I mean, I think there's something to be said for learning the business, but with that said, and I have no idea what Dave's opinion on this is, but I think where I would land, where I'm coming from, is if you're planning on putting new equipment in, doing it sooner is better than doing it later. And the reason for that is if you have a zombie mat, then chances are the community sees it as a zombie mat. And so you as a new owner can inject a lot of value into that laundromat very quickly. And kind of going back to that marketing thing, right? Doing something dramatic to get people in. Well, guess what? If you just buy a laundromat and you put new equipment into it right away, that's dramatic. And if you couple that with a dramatic promotion, you have the potential for a winning marketing strategy and business strategy to get people coming into your laundromat. So that's where I would land with that. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing if it takes a few months for the equipment to come in after you own it and you get to know some people in the community and stuff. I think that's okay. But I do think that sooner is better. If you're planning on putting new equipment in anyways, then I say just do it, because there's not really anything that you can't learn with new equipment that you could learn with old equipment, other than maybe how to fix old equipment that hopefully you won't have to do when you have new equipment. So that's where I would land. I would say go for it, man. If you can get that equipment in, get it in. And not only are you going to add, new equipment that hopefully will attract new customers, and hopefully you pair it with that. But also when you put new equipment in, it's going to help your business run more efficiently, utilities and all that stuff. But also you can, your VIN prices can be raised and all. There's just so many benefits, let alone even the tax write-off for buying new equipment. So I don't know, Dave, what are your thoughts?
I agree with everything Jordan just said. That makes him a really smart guy.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Makes Jordan's a really smart guy. The flip side of that is that, and I know, or I suspect Jordan agrees with me on this too. The other side of the equation is this is assuming that you know what you're buying.
Yeah.
So it makes the assumption that you know what equipment you want. It makes the assumption you know what distributor you want to work with. It makes the assumption that you know what size machines, what number of machines, where to put them in your store. Because hypothetically, real quick, hypothetically, if you're a new mat owner, and I don't know that he says that, but if you're a new mat owner and you're still getting a feel for the industry, I agree that the sooner you put new equipment in there, the better it's going to be for you and the community, no doubt. But the reality is, even people that are pretty aggressive on new equipment, which I kind of put myself in that category, we pretty much replace all or most of our equipment every 12 years or so. And that's pretty aggressive for like hard mount equipment. But a lot of people, when they make a commercial, equipment purchase, they're thinking 20, 25 years down the road. So the last thing you want to do is jump 6 months ahead to try to make a difference in your business, which is what we're trying to do, and make the wrong choice and buy the wrong equipment. So I think that's the other side of the equation. That's like the caveat of like balance these two things, because both of what we're saying is the same thing, but just don't get in a hurry and make a bad decision. I'd rather it take you 6 months or even a year, which I don't want it to take you that long if you're buying a zombie mat. But I would rather you take a year and make the right decision on equipment mix, what distributor to use, the layout of the equipment, where to install it, because those things can be very hard to undo. And once you buy new equipment, like the day you put it in your store, it's no longer new. So if you make a bad decision and you got to pull it out and sell it, you're selling it for pennies on the dollar. I don't care if it's a year old. It's no longer new. And you're going to take a serious hit on that. So my point is, make sure they're making a good decision, that you're working with good mentors or networking with the right people, reading the right resources. And my point is, it's all predicated on making good choices and decisions as far as equipment mix and your distributor too.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I mean, it's never too early to start meeting the distributors in your area, especially if you know you're going to buy a zombie mat, because, I think, and Dave says this all the time, but I think if you get a good distributor that you're working with, they're going to be able to help you figure out that equipment mix, where the equipment should go, what equipment's going to be right for your situation. All those questions, they're really going to help you. But it really takes getting to know, these distributors and who specifically you're working with, and, making sure you're working with the right person for you, somebody that you can mesh with, who knows this business well and who wants to help you. wants to help you out.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a few more jump in lately. So, we talked about Stacy. Stacy, thanks for joining us. Hey, Jerry, that's supposed to say hi, Jerry. But anyways, hi, you, Jerry. Sorry. How's it going? Thanks for joining me. Good to see the brothers, Jerry and Jess in there. Those are some good dudes that I enjoy spending time with. I've been to their place down in Florida and spent some time with them. They're doing some good stuff down there.
Awesome.
So thanks for joining us, guys. Make sure to get some questions in here. We're what are we, 70 minutes into a 90-minute free Q&A, guys. We're just here to help. Keep hitting these questions. We're gonna run right up against that 90-minute mark as long as we can keep bringing everyone value. We appreciate you being here. What were you gonna say?
I have another question in that we haven't hit yet, and
okay.
Ride a Rodeo asked a question, not about rodeos, surprisingly. Maybe they're already experts, but asked a question. Hey, they're in an area that they feel like has a big need for a laundromat. Does it make sense to still put a smaller laundromat in that area if there's not really any other laundromats in the area, and but there's a big need, but you're brand new, right? So does that make sense to go small, or do you need to go bigger in that situation?
I mean, that's a tough one. That's a tough one because, I mean, I don't want you to – I think this kind of goes back to the balance we talked about a minute ago. I mean, I don't want you to sit around and wait 5 years to serve a community. So I'm guessing – I mean, he's saying in a demographic with high demand for laundromat service, literally no laundromat servicing the area, wise decision to start really small. I mean, he doesn't give the caveat that he doesn't have the revenue or the capital. So, I mean – I don't have the answer to all your questions. So I tell my coaching clients all the time that the answer to almost every question they ask me is it depends. And then that's usually an hour conversation, as you probably know, Jordan. So, I mean, the answer is truly that
conversation with you is an hour conversation. So.
Minimum, which is why I only charge by the hour, by the way. No, but seriously, I mean, I think you may expect this answer, but I mean, I think if you're doing your numbers right and you're researching the market and the industry, and there's a need for a couple 5,000 square foot laundromats to properly serve that market, I mean, are you wrong to build a 3,000 square foot store? I mean, you are if you can build a 5,000 square foot store. I mean, if you know the demographics and the laws of supply and demand and all these things are tipped in your favor, but there's a balance there with the risk reward proposition and your capital position and what can you pull off? What's your experience? And there's just a lot of factors involved in that we don't have the information on. But ultimately, would it still be a wise decision to start really that's small, and you're going to fix it up and make it nice and serve the area and be busting at the seams, and then you're going to knock down the wall to the strip mall next door and take over the space next door, and this is all part of a 2, 3, 5 year plan? That's a fantastic plan. Like, you can absolutely eat an elephant one bite at a time. But in a perfect scenario, you'd want to try to balance that laws of supply and demand with the service in your market. But you have to take your capital position into account and what you can accomplish. And then, of course, Jordan's probably going to hit on this because he's in LA. But the reality is you also have to kind of factor in, like, I don't know what area you're in. In Cincinnati, it's easy for me to throw around 5,000 square feet. But in some markets, 5,000 square feet is like, 10 times the rent that I pay for 5,000 square feet. And so you got to make sure the economics work too. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I have some big questions in this scenario, right? Like my first question is, well, if there's such a demand in this area, I mean, the laundromat market is a pretty mature market. I mean, there's not a lot of places where there's a big demand for a laundromat and no laundromat. There are some, I'm sure, but there's not a lot. So my question is, why is there no laundromat servicing that area currently? Is there really a demand? So that's my number one. And number two, if there is such a big demand and you go small, people are going to notice if you're busting at the seams, and you may not have time to kind of scale up that way. There may be some big players coming in. And I think, the two biggest dangers of a laundromat, for a competitor coming in are, number one, if you don't reinvest back into your business and you don't take care of your customers the way you should. And number two, if you're too small to service the area and you're a 1,500 square foot laundromat and the area would support a 4,000 square foot laundromat, right? Somebody's going to come in, put a 4,000 square foot laundromat in there and put you out of business or really strain your business, right? So I'm a little nervous about that scenario for that reason, is because I don't know why a laundromat wouldn't be there if there is such a big demand, for one. And for number two, if you go really small, you're susceptible, if you're right about the demand, you're susceptible for someone bigger coming in before you can scale up to the point where you have captured that market. So like Dave said, the answer is it depends. And I would add to that, if you're, it sounds like maybe you're a little bit newer to this industry. So if you're newer and you're thinking about going that route, I would say don't travel alone. Find, call Dave, or, find a mentor or a consultant or somebody to travel that path with you, because there may be opportunity for, big gains there, but I suspect that there might be equal or maybe even greater than equal opportunity for big losses in that scenario if you don't tread lightly. So that's what I would say. I would say, hey, I will never tell somebody that they can't do something unless I see very sure warning signs like don't do it. But I would also not let somebody walk into a situation where my senses are saying, hey, there's potential danger here for you, so be careful.
Yeah, if Jordan's spidey senses are going off, that's bad. You got to listen to the spidey senses.
Bad. It's bad.
That's a great point, and that's hopefully that helps you out some. But yeah, I would agree with Jordan. If it's such a great location and demographics, if you told me there's a bunch of old rundown laundromats, okay. I mean, those have just been neglected, mismanaged. We see that all over the country, right, Jordan?
Mm-hmm.
And you can go in and retrofit that and make it a great thing. But if you're just underbuilding for the sake of underbuilding, thinking I'd rather have a 3,000 or 2,000 square foot laundromat that does 7 or 8 turns a day. One of the things I tell my coaching clients when they're kind of that boots on the ground that we were talking about earlier, go into a laundromat in your community that you're looking to, buy or build in on a Sunday afternoon at 3:00. If you can find a rundown, dumpy laundromat or a laundromat that's small, that's busting at the seams, that's where the laws of supply and demand are tipped in your favor. Mm-hmm. They're not properly servicing that market. So when Jordan and I talk about, people not, markets not being properly served, it's not always a matter of you not having a nice store. That's not always the point. The point is it meeting the demographics? Mm-hmm. So yeah, fantastic points for sure.
It's in Nigeria. Okay.
I just saw that. Gotcha.
That changes things. I mean,
great point. And thank you for sharing that. That's an example of why I say it depends.
It depends. That's
that
it.
is exactly. A totally different scenario. Now, Jordan is our resident expert on Nigeria, so he's probably more qualified to answer this.
I've not been to Nigeria. I've been to Kenya. Which is, I don't know how close it is actually, but it's closer than I am now to. So, I mean, there may be an opportunity there. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't say that I'm super familiar with the Nigerian laundromat market yet, but hey, I think it's something worth looking into potentially. And I mean, something for you to think about, and this, I know this isn't super applicable to everybody, so I won't spend too much time on it, but, asking the question, how much education does my community need to, do people know about laundromats and how that will help them in your city, in your town, in your village, whatever the case may be, is, do you need to educate them also on what a laundromat is and what it does and how it's going to help them and how it's better than their current way of doing laundry, because that's a big question. And that education piece could lengthen out the time of profitability. So something to think about. I have another question here. Somebody had asked a question about should you, I guess, is number one. And if so, how do you go about evaluating a laundromat that doesn't have any books? You have anything to say about that?
I do, but we only have 10 minutes. Let me think real quick of how I can help people the most. We talked about a lot of the things. We've talked about the laws of supply and demand, competitive analysis, demographics, locations, focus. You know, the reality is, like, there's something to be said for the everything that's thrown around right now, which is the value of a laundromat is 3 to 5x net operating income. That's the value of a laundromat. Okay, that's all true. The reality is those are averages of averages of averages over the entire country, if not the entire world. And that doesn't mean that all laundromats are 3 to 5x. It means that the average is of laundromats. That means that laundromats sell for above 5x. And I know some that have and do. And that means that a lot sell for below 3x. That's the average range. So there's something to be said for books and net operating income and those types of things. But I can tell you that, let me think real quick. 3 of my 4, one of them I took over that was closed to the public. The other 3 were all losing money when I bought them. So if I just plugged in a 3 to 5x of net operating income, they were worth nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I paid not a lot, but I mean, I paid anywhere from 40 to 85, I guess, for these. And I was basically paying for location, infrastructure, a fairly terrible customer base, and value add. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's like, it's not what I tell all my coaching clients, and some get really frustrated by this, but it's the truth. Yeah, Bob, thanks for joining us. What I tell my coaching clients is, look, valuing a laundromat is an art. It's not a science.
Mm-hmm.
And our industry attracts a lot of people from the real estate industry, which is much more of a science than an art. I'm not saying it's 100%, but you can plug in spreadsheets and things like that, formulas, and those are applicable in our industry, but they're not the be all end all, guys. So we can't fall in love with just the books and the net operating income and the data. We got to drill down deeper and look at the laws of supply and demand and all of these types of things that we've been talking about for, quite honestly, the last 80 minutes. That's my real quick, terrible answer. I wish I had a lot more time, but I don't.
Yeah, that's for every question for you, though. So
true, very true.
Here's one thing that I say in the webinars that I do, because I think that you're right. I think it's a little more of a science. It's art and science, but I think it's a little more on the science side of things when you're buying a stabilized business that is already producing cash flow and you're buying that cash flow. Okay. And
are you saying more of like a turnkey situation?
More turnkey, or even if you're planning on coming in and improving stuff, but say it's still netting, $5,000 a month or whatever, like it has a stabilized income, even if you're planning on coming in and putting in new machines or doing rehabs or whatever the case may be, the income is stable. At that point, you're mostly buying the cash flow, right? You're buying the business for the cash flow. And so it's valued based on the cash flow. So it's a little more sciencey there. There is still art to it, but it's a little more sciencey. There is a point that's in the way that I like to think about it, there's a cutoff point sort of where it tips more to the artsy side, where there's, you're not buying the cash flow primarily or even necessarily, because maybe there isn't any, or there's not very much, or it's negative. And like you mentioned, you're buying the infrastructure, you're buying the location, maybe you're even buying some of the equipment or whatever the case may be. And just very roughly or very generally speaking, again, this is just as a guide to kind of give you an idea, but I would say when you're under like $100,000 or so for a laundromat, you're kind of more on that artsy side. You're probably not as much buying the cash flow. You're more buying the business in order to do something with it. And if that's the case for you, that's the way that I got into my first one, and you got into yours that way too. If that's the case for you, then I would say the most important thing is coming up with a value, yes, but having a plan on how you're going to increase your business or improve this business and get it to a point where it does have a stable cash flow. That is the point. So I'd put that probably around 100 grand, maybe 125, 150, but maybe around 100 grand, just as a guideline for you to kind of think about. Anything under that, you're more buying infrastructure, location, you're buying, these kinds of things. It's a little more abstract than the straight cash flow. Once you get up above that, when you're up in the 200, 300, 400 plus $1,000, you're buying a more stabilized cash flow, and that's where the formulas can come into play a little more often. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but
I totally agree, and I was kind of on one thought process, so I appreciate you bringing that up because I think it's a fantastic point. The last thing I'll add to that, and maybe we can hit one, maybe two more questions. Last thing I'll add to that is keep in mind that the majority of the opportunity in our industry is on the lower end. Like most just by default, most laundromats are not well run. They're not turnkey. They're not modernized. They're not state of the art. And so, once again, I mean, if we're just laws of average, most laundromats out there are not in a ideal turnkey situation. But there's certainly a percentage of them that are. And then the thing I'll add to that too, before we move on is, most of the ones that are in that situation, a lot of them aren't for sale. Because they are fantastic businesses.
Yeah.
That, a lot of times the business owners have invested heavily into get them to that point, and they're not looking to sell them, at the top of the mountain. But there are definitely people out there for sure. Absolutely. I want to hit one thing real quick, and this is not a question, but Stacy, Jerry, Justin, all you Florida people down there, you guys definitely need to get together. I know most.
Hold on. No. You cannot get together without us. That's what I'm saying. Like,
hey,
you're having to get together in South Florida.
Stacy and the Dolce boys, they know I love Florida. I go there probably too often. I couldn't live there, but I love visiting. So yeah, tell me if you guys are planning something and I'll see if I can make it happen. But you guys are all good people. Doesn't sound like you guys know each other. You guys should be connecting. You should be getting together. Stacy, thanks for bringing that up. You guys should connect. I'll leave it at that. For sure. So what do you think, Jordan? We got 3 minutes.
You want to tackle a quick one?
Sure.
We have, I had one that was, how far is too far for a laundromat?
That's a great question. I think the answer is it depends. That's the end of the show. See you. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I think that's specific to each individual person. We have to make that decision. But as a general rule, my general advice is, especially if you're a newbie, I recommend Stacy's got guest rooms. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. It's a party at Stacy's house. Anyways, what was the question? Holy cow. I can't keep a train of thought.
The question is, how far away is too far away?
How far away? Yeah, roughly 30 to 45 minutes. I don't think it's a big deal if you stretch that an hour. I think it's a more ideal if you stay closer to 20 minutes. That's my personal opinion, but I also think it depends on a lot of factors. So as an example, one of the things that I loved when I bought my first laundromat is that it was 2 miles from my home. The reason I love that it was 2 miles from my home is I had a 3-week-old, I had a toddler, I had a 10-year-old at home. My wife had a full-time career. I had a full-time career that I knew I wasn't going to be leaving, and I had a 2-hour commute every day, 1 hour to work and 1 hour home. And so my thought was, I don't know anything about this business. Chances are I have no idea what I'm actually getting in for. But the one factor that I know that is quantifiable is that it's 2 miles from my house. So no matter how crazy this gets and how many mistakes I make and how, bad I flub this up, the one thing I know for sure is it's 2 miles from my house. So any emergency that's 2 miles from my house is more convenient than one that's an hour from my house. So the point I'm at now in my journey with the education I have and everything else, would I hesitate to take a store an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours from my house? No, I really wouldn't. But I wouldn't recommend that for somebody that's been in the business, especially less than a few years. But, it also depends. If you don't have a full-time job and you're single and you don't have any kids and jumping in the car and driving 2 hours just isn't a big deal to you and you don't mind even driving up there and staying in a hotel. And I mean, you got to make that decision. Just keep in mind that your time is valuable and you're probably going to be biting off things that you're probably not familiar with if you're new to the industry. 1 minute. What do you got?
Well, hey, I want to say congrats to Lucas for winning the lottery. And in terms of how lucrative the business is, it can be lucrative, but it's a business and it's work. So if you're looking to put your money somewhere that's just going to spin off some income from you, for you, then probably elsewhere is a better place to look, but keep learning, man, because this is a good business. If you educate yourself right, get connected in with the right people, the people who, want to help you succeed, and the people who are already succeeding the way you want to, get to it. But guys, thank you so much. Make sure, if you're in South Florida there, make sure you get Stacy's contact info so you guys can get together. But thank you guys so much for joining us on the live Q&A. I know I had a blast and learned a lot over there in the comment section. So thanks as always for doing that. Dave, you are the man, and I super value everything that you have to say and appreciate all the value you bring to me, and secondarily, the value you bring to everybody else.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that as always. I'm super grateful that you always agree to do this with me. We've got some people on here, but a few actually that haven't been on previous YouTube lives. So guys, I'm going to throw this out there. We do this monthly. So we'll be doing this next month on Jordan's Laundromat Resource YouTube channel. Check out our social media. Make sure you're subscribed to Jordan's YouTube channel and my YouTube channel, so you get those alerts and notifications, because these are always YouTube live events. So you can get those notifications when they're scheduled and stuff up to a week ahead of time. But follow us on social media. I'm on LinkedIn. Jordan is. I'm on Facebook. Jordan is. We're both on Instagram. You can find us pretty much all over the place. My website, laundromatmillionaire.com. Check it out. I got a book coming out in October. Join my Facebook group. Jordan, laundromatresource.com, has an awesome podcast that you guys should check out. He's up to 60 episodes now. Let me tell you something, for you newbies in the business, one of the biggest suggestions I can give you guys as we leave today, go listen to all of Jordan's podcasts, every single one of them. They're roughly 90 minutes long. There's 60 of them. That tide you over with increasing your knowledge and education until we do this again next month. Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next time. Take care.
See you guys. Appreciate you.